Call our meeting to order, please. Wow, somebody's really tall. Let's call our meeting to order for the Deschutes County Board of County Commissioners. It happens to be Wednesday, July 10th. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Commissioner Chang is on the screen. Good morning, Commissioner Chang. Thank you for joining us on your trip. We do have several people with citizen input at this time. Rondo, would you like to have your 3 minutes?
Morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm going to read here. I broke my reading glasses. I'm Ron Guzel. I've lived in Deschutes County for over half my life. And today I'm going to read something kind of out of my style, but I want to ask this question before I do this and after. What has the Deschutes County Commission done in this last year since this happened, and what will you do to make sure this has a better chance of never happening in our community again? This is for Joe. This is an article that was written a year ago. Man dies after dog attack at homeless encampment, deputies say. A 56-year-old Ben Man died after he was severely mauled by 3 dogs at a homeless camp early Wednesday morning, the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office said. Joseph Taylor Keaton died after sustaining life-threatening injuries in the area locals know as Dirt World. Officials also call it Juniper Ridge. Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the area at around 1:15 a.m. after receiving a point of an unknown problem. Sheriff spokesman Sergeant Jason Wall said in a news release. Deputies arrived and found Keaton, who appeared to have been attacked and had lost a substantial amount of blood. Wall said he had been mauled for a prolonged period of time. This isn't the case of 5 or 10 bites, Wall said. It's bad. So my question again. What will we do to serve the people of this community, who's a dog-loving community, is also a dog-fearing community, to make sure this is less likely to happen again here? Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Rhonda, for bringing that up. It truly was a tragedy. And we've really worked hard to clean Dirt World, Juniper Ridge up. I'm still not happy with what it looks like today. If you drive by on Highway 97, you'll see that we have dumpsters, and then we still have trash next to the dumpster. It's not in the dumpster. We do have security that goes through that entire area twice a day. Just trying to give continuity and concern to the residents that do live there. And we do have some proposals coming up for actually more attention in that area. So Carl Shoemaker.
Good morning, I'm Carl. Public service announcement. This is an addictive substance. I have read that it is addictive as cocaine itself. How did it get to be as addictive as cocaine itself? You didn't ask. Well, Southern gentlemen on plantations in the United States of America mostly have grown and bred this substance to be as addictive as cocaine itself. Why would they do such a thing? You didn't ask. well, profits, of course. Young people, if you can hear me, do not let your friends pressure you into taking even one puff of this addictive substance. Do not let advertising propaganda influence you in any way to even take this substance into your body. It will take you down a dark and windy pathway through a dangerous forest into a deep swamp from which you will never escape. And a public service announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker.
Okay. Are there any raised hands on Zoom, Stephen?
Doreen, aye.
Okay, Doreen. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. I have been quite foul the last few times I talked to you. So of course I did a little internal what's going on with me because that's pretty unusual for me. And you know, I think it's all the comments about how proud you are of your airports. I can tell you when I hear that and other people suffering under the targeted tyranny of these flight schools chasing people off, you know, I can only hear that you're proud of your dishonest environmental assessments. You're proud of culling thousands of birds and the dismissal of protected species, including in culling permits. The taking of prime farmlands for a toxic industry, lead and black soot pollution into miles of nearby lives, livestock, and wildlife. Farms with no more raptors and owls to naturally reduce exploding vermin populations. You're proud of the harassment of longtime residents who did not move to the nuisance by the harassment performed by flight schools and airport benefactors. You're proud of damaging thousands of acres of prime farmland. You're proud of unconstitutional navigation easements. Proud of ignoring the 14th Amendment. Proud of permitting menacing and excessive road traffic, increasing the size of roads and pollution through our farmlands, having zero monitoring and abatement. You take no inventory of increased cancers, deaths, mental illness, diagnoses, mental health diagnosis increases, hypertension and fatal heart attacks within proximity to these airports, known to be caused by aviation noise and air pollution. So at the end of your abdication of duty to protect Deschutes County humans, farmlands, and wildlife, those of us unnecessarily and unjustifiably targeted and suffering, here you boast of how proud you are of your airports and the excessive aviation activity so harmful it's being pushed out of other communities, and here you are offering up our lives, our farms, our health, and our outdoors to be sacrificed to the aviation altar you are so proud of. Please put in some monitoring. Please address the harassment and the menacing. Please address why they're 10 feet off my roof when I'm a mile and a half away. I go down to the airport and watch them, and they are hundreds of feet higher than they are at my house. Why is this happening, and why are you allowing it to happen? I've talked to others who are having similar problems. We have people that visit, and within an hour they're like, what the hell is with this aircraft stuff? Like, do they do this all day? Why? You're surrounded in farmland. Why are they on your roof? Like, please do something about it. Put in some monitors. Pursue justice. Protect our farms. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you for your comments this morning. Stephen, is there anyone else online? No? No, okay, thank you so much. Well, let's go to the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? There was just one small change in the minutes that I think Brenda changed. So I think that's already been done. So therefore the vote, Commissioner Devon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So thank you. So let's go to action item number 6.
Good morning, Commissioners. We should have the City of La Pine staff. And so I'll defer to Brent Beebe, the Planning or Community Development Director with the City of La Pine, to summarize their request for Board of County Commission support for a transportation and growth management grant for their transportation system plan, I believe is what the request is for. He's not available. He's not online. I'm sorry, he's not online?
Can you folks hear me?
Yes. Oh, there
There
we
he
go.
is.
Okay, great.
Good morning, Brent.
Good morning. All right. It's like, so we just have audio. I won't have video.
Is the video not working?
I think you can turn it on. You probably have access.
Does not look like I have access. Oh, here we go. Okay, there we go.
See you.
Morning, Commissioners. Brent Bybee, Principal Planner here with the City of La Pine. Thank you for your consideration today. As you can see through the staff report, the city has been going through a number of steps to update a number of our larger plans within the community, one of them being the transportation system plan. We feel that this is timely, especially with the comprehensive plan update that we are hoping to accomplish through La Pine 2045, which you folks provided a letter of support for as well in the past when we applied for the technical assistance grant through DLCD. So thank you again for your support on that. But we are also asking for support as we apply for a grant opportunity with DLCD and ODOT again. The grant amount would fund hopefully the entire project with staff time included, but the total that we're going to be asking for the grant opportunity is $225,000. The project is also urgent. As we went through the visioning exercise with the community in the latter part of 2023, transportation, traffic management, and infrastructure were at the top of the list in terms of what the community wanted to see improved within La Pine. So hopefully, as we move forward, we do have some stiff competition this year. We were informed that City of the Dalles and Wasco County and City of Redmond would also be applying for the grant opportunity. Only one jurisdiction would be chosen for that opportunity. And we're hoping that it will be La Pine. So yeah, any support you folks can provide is welcome. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Brent, so should we each write a letter and then write a letter together? Would that help at all? What do you think?
I thought I included a draft letter for you
did.
folks.
You did
Yeah.
for all of us, but I was just thinking, like, if each one of us wrote a letter too.
You're welcome to. That's definitely something that you could do. We do have a deadline. It would need to be submitted to ODOT and DLCD prior to the end of July. So we are looking at a tight timeline. So if you folks are able to do that with a quick turnaround time, we're happy to accept that.
It's 20 days, Brett. I think we could do that.
Yeah.
My timeline was usually like in the afternoon by 5.
Yeah.
We're used to that. So
Yeah.
you've given us a lot of opportunity if it's something that we can support after other people make their comments.
Definitely.
So question, Brent, this is Commissioner DeBone. There's, kind of the buzz is starting to happen in the community for, future commercial development, Drafter Road area, Burgess and Huntington, up and down Huntington inside the town. Are there proposals out there that are challenging to approve at this point because of transportation needs? Or, what does it look like in the next 12 months, I guess? Because, we're talking about a project to do a study, to talk about the big picture, but yeah, what does the next 12 months look like, I guess?
So the next 12 months, we would be relying upon what was previously adopted in 2013. This project, the transportation system plan update, would definitely take more than 12 months to accomplish. It's very similar to a comprehensive plan update. It's not, a small portion of it. That's why we've separated it out into two different projects: comprehensive plan update and transportation system plan update. Once it's complete, though, we'll definitely have a more updated list of, projects that would need to be completed in the community, or road updates that would need to occur. But within the 12-month period that you're asking, Tony, Commissioner DeBone, that would be, we'd be relying upon what was adopted in 2013. We do have projects where, development has been proposed, and due to lack of infrastructure or lack of public improvements or road improvements, those projects are having to update or upgrade that infrastructure. So there can be kind of a limiting factor when development is proposed right now, since we are working off of that 2013 plan.
So some development proposals may have a heavy lift for some transportation improvements right now, where a TSP will say that we have a capital improvement plan with intersections and turn lanes that are scheduled up by the city.
Correct.
And with system development charges. So the city has a SDC for transportation for development?
Correct. Yep. All development. Yep.
Yep. And that's what we do in the county. And we separated the comp plan from the TSP also.
Right.
So yeah, I'm supportive of this. It'd be exciting to be able to do that. As I say, it's just that awkward time right now between now and when something could get published, where people are, chomping at the bit. As I say, if the economy starts to go where people are ready to develop at another level, that may happen before this is complete.
Yeah. And, right now this is an effort to get us in a better place for the future. Because if this keeps getting put off, we're just kicking the can down the road. But the city really has identified these larger projects as something that we would like to get done sooner than later, so that we can be ready for the level of development that continues to come our way.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, if I can just offer, not that our road department director, Chris Doty, has any comments. He is available online. I assume that this will be a very closely coordinated project between the city and county, given the jurisdictional issues and transportation planning issues, et cetera. Oh, I see Commissioner Chang has his hand up. I didn't mean to get in front of
Oh, I
Commissioner
think it
Chang.
just went up.
Okay.
Nick,
Mr.
that
Chang?
was exactly that was one of the things I wanted to ask about, was coordination with county roads. So you were right on the same line of thought as I was. So please continue.
Yeah, well, acknowledging there's county maintained roads inside the city. Since the city was incorporated, the county had just kind of proceeded business as usual in support of a new city. So there's definitely probably a chapter or discussion in there about what can we do to transfer or make a plan to transfer at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we've communicated in the past, we are fairly young city. We are trying to get our feet under us still in some aspects. Road ownership being one of those aspects. It's most likely going to continue to be a gradual process, but yes, the transportation system plan would most likely address ownership of roads and the transfer of ownership.
Great. When I saw a street sweeper vehicle in town yesterday, I think, with the city logo on it. So is that a new piece of equipment?
I believe so. Yeah. yeah, it's good to see folks out there getting the streets clean. You know, and in the past we had to either rely upon ODOT or the county, but yeah, now we're able to get out there ourselves in some of the areas and get some of that done ourselves. Yeah.
I specifically looked for the logo on the vehicle to figure out who it was, assuming it was going to be some other jurisdiction. It said City of Lapine.
Yep.
So making
Yeah.
some progress.
Yep. Yeah. And to Commissioner Chang's point, yeah, ODOT and the county will definitely be involved in the transportation system plan update as we move forward. We'll be working with both ODOT and the Public Works Department for the county.
Mr. Chang, did you have any more comments?
Yeah, so my other question was so Brent shared with us the three stiff competitors for this funding program this cycle, and he mentioned the city of Redmond, and I just wanted to ask staff if they were aware whether the city of Redmond was going to ask us for a letter as well.
I have not heard of any requests at this time, but I'm happy to reach out to the city if it's helpful.
Yeah, and I mean that wouldn't prevent me from supporting this letter. I would feel like we would have to do both if we got a request from the city of Redmond as well.
And we've been in that spot before where we end up writing multiple letters of recommendation to a grant request. With that, I'll move approval of a letter supporting the city of Lapine's application for a transportation growth management grant.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Mr. Chang?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So Brent, well, thank you for being here 20 days in advance of the deadline, and we will get your letter sent to you. So thank you and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you very much, commissioners.
All right, we have item number 7. Carolyn? Good morning. Is this what you sent us yesterday? I printed it.
Oh, do you want to?
Oh, why not? Sure.
Need one.
This one looks better than my black and white.
All right. Good morning. For the record, my name is Caroline House, and I'm a senior planner with the Deschutes County Planning Division. And I'm here because the board held a hearing for a plan amendment zone change request back on June 12th and established an open record period at the end of that hearing. But since that time, the applicant, excuse me, has requested to extend the written record period. They specifically need additional time to coordinate with the Department of Land Conservation and Development on their EC analysis. So this is all related to compliance with statewide planning goal 5 and the scenic resource protections along Highway 97. So the county's procedures ordinance does give the board full discretion on whether to grant the extension request. And staff just notes that there's no 150-day clock. So staff is supportive of the request and thinks it would benefit the board to have this information in the record for your consideration as part of your review. Subsequently, Central Oregon Land Watch has filed an objection to the requested extension, and that was included in the original agenda packet. So I'll just note that I've coordinated with county legal counsel, and again, the county's procedures ordinance allows for any party, not just the applicant, to request an extension, but it's up to the board entirely whether or not to grant the extension, and there's no procedural error, or we don't believe there would be a procedural error. That's the background information I have today. And my only other request is if the board does elect to extend the record, that you sign the orders today so I can mail it out to all the parties tomorrow so everyone has sufficient notice. The record was supposed to close today at 4 p.m.
One question would be, what does it mean to coordinate with DLCD on the EC? As in, is that the applicant's responsibility to present an EC is my understanding, and to coordinate with DLCD? What are the kind of dynamics on that? Is that because it's probably not an approval, it's just a feedback or.
Yeah, so exactly to your last point. So there are staff at ELCD that work with jurisdictions across the state on how to prepare an EC. So that comes directly from state law. They have a lot more expertise than we do in-house. So it's more of a, they're not going to approve it, as you said, but just to make sure that they're following the standard statutory requirements and checking all the boxes, hopefully, so that when it's officially the updated version is added to the record,
Kind of
it meets the
completeness.
intent of state law.
Completeness review or a, yeah, okay.
Commissioner Chang, do you have any questions?
No questions.
And
Is
then-
there,
sorry.
go ahead.
I just want to note too that there was a update to the request yesterday. That was in the memo I just handed to the board. So the dates, they've asked to push those out further than the original request. So there's 2 orders. The second order has the dates that were requested yesterday by the applicant. And I guess we'll just go on the record now. So just to for everybody's benefit. So the new evidence testimony period would end on August 14th. Rebuttal evidence and testimony would end on September 4th. And the applicant's final argument would end on September 18th.
What does it say? I mean, this seems to be good information to be put on the record, so I'd be supportive of this, with the applicant's request. Yeah, the dates are changing on us here a little bit, July 17th to August 14th, so it's another whole month. But I don't really see any downsides in that.
Okay, so the order that we have, that we're looking at 2024-027, is that order, is that amended then with these new dates? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, so I've given Brenda an updated order with the new dates reflected on it. It was too late to get into your agenda packet.
Okay.
But that's been reviewed by legal counsel and is ready for your signature today.
Same order number.
Yeah, same
Yes,
order.
there we
number,
are.
but
Okay,
just
that's what I
different
was
dates.
asking.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, perfect. Thank you so much. So is there a motion?
So yeah, I'll move approval of the request to extend the written record period for the Last Ranch LLC plan amendment and zone change by the order number 2024-027.
I'm going to abstain from this vote. I can see the value of the information that the applicant wants to add to the record, but I also kind of think that they have had a significant amount of time to complete their EC analysis, and that they initiated this cycle of application, and so I see the value of it, but I also feel like there was probably sufficient time to complete the EC analysis prior to this time.
Okay, so as chair, I'll second the motion then. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Abstain.
and the chair votes yes. So it will be extended then. Thank you, Carolyn. We're now at item number 8. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Peter Gutowski, Community Development Director. Here this morning to respectfully ask the board to consider approving resolution 2024-035. I want to extend my appreciation to Cam Sparks and the Finance Department for preparing that resolution. As noted in the materials, the request would be adding 1 building inspector, ideally a A-level inspector that can do commercial inspections specifically related to plumbing. But we really need somebody come on board with several years of experience. That's our ideal outcome. The financial implications are really non-existent. We can fund this position through fees and, if necessary, a very, and I will say very healthy reserve fund 301. Preliminary end of year budget estimates showing over 230,000 $230,000 going into this particular reserve fund just based on revenue that exceeded our projections for the building division. So this is addressing some indications that we're receiving where some of our staff are taking family medical leave. Other staff is indicating that they may be contemplating retiring. But there's been no formal announcement, but they're indicating that this may be something that's in their vocabulary, and we're not eminently, but on the horizon, and we're trying to stay nimble, addressing succession. In the past, it has taken time to fill a building inspector position. So this position, if it's supported by the Board of County Commissioners, would be marketed until filled, so that we can ensure that we are getting the best candidates possible, and fingers crossed that we have candidates that live in the region or have the means to relocate to Central Oregon. But we want to stay nimble. The board's well aware of the demands that we're experiencing, the Community Development Department and the building inspectors as subject matter experts is expertise that we need to always make sure that we're incorporating the requisite staff to perform the various duties that the division undertakes, not only for rural Deschutes County, but the cities of Lapine and Sisters. So here to answer any questions that you may have.
Peter, when you said plumbing, I could really relate because I was getting calls about plumbing inspections. And so the fact that you're looking for someone with experience makes perfect sense to the demand in the community. So, I'm glad you came to us, and I'm glad that we have a way forward to fund it. And we definitely have the demand out there from what I'm hearing on the other side of the story. So thank you.
So yeah, my thought is, this would be putting somebody in the starting lineup for us. In the past, we've talked about making sure the bench is there, making sure the next person's in there, but it's going to be a different scenario. We're going to need somebody to get up to speed and be able to provide, that starting lineup service. So I'm excited about that. It does feel like it's been this little trough, but I got to imagine it's coming back too. So we need to be prepared for that. I think Nick and I were talking about, let's market this. Let's put a shine on it. Let's, remind people this is benefits, healthcare, retirement, somebody that maybe is an experienced, plumber in the construction industry. This is just going to be right for a 10 or 15 year career and the later part of the career, somebody that's experienced. So there's got to be somebody out there.
Yeah, no, well said, Commissioner DeBone. We had our monthly coordination meeting with the Central Oregon Builders Association, and as members, we have the ability, and they highlighted it, to forward a recruitment notice, and they can disseminate that information with their contacts. So we're in alignment there. There's an opportunity to promote this position. There's a tremendous team led by Randy Sheed and Crystal Appleby. So there's a lot to promote here, some dynamic work, again, doing work in the rural county, whether it's individual property owners at the resort level or even with the cities. And we're seeing tremendous investment, as one of your earlier agenda items noted, in Lapine, as they prepare for an update of their comprehensive plan. We're seeing tremendous investment in that community, as well as in Sisters. And I think, you've heard me say in the past, I think this, as we work our way towards completing this decade, I think this decade, the 6 years, 5.5 years we have left in it, I think are going to be tremendous for those two communities specifically.
It just so happens Lapine has a lot more space than Sisters.
Very true. Although Sisters is undertaking a process right now to justify an expansion of the urban growth boundary. But yeah, Lapine is well positioned to address growth and development.
Yes, and don't forget the Quilt Festival is this Saturday, and they're expecting 10,000 people. So if you love to go to Sisters on a really busy day, I would suggest going Saturday morning really early. It starts at 9, right? Yes, Commissioner Chang.
Peter, I wanted to ask about the vehicle component of the budget impacts in this staff memo. so I fully appreciate the need for this position and to kind of coordinate with family leave requests, potential retirements, making sure that we have adequate continuity and capacity at the building division. But if this person is coming in to kind of coordinate with family leave requests or people retiring, do we need another vehicle? Or, I mean, you may need another vehicle regardless, but do we need another vehicle in association with this request?
I think ultimately, I mean, we'll be judicious about it. We do currently have a colleague that is undertaking family medical leave. That's going to be temporary. As the board knows, it's worth reminding the audience and anyone listening online, our building inspectors are 100% remote. So they do rely on a county vehicle to do their inspections. And if we're able to get a seasoned plumbing inspector, they're literally traveling all corners of the county, or in coordination with their leadership team. We have 2 commercial level plumbers now. They divide the county in half. We'll look at that thoroughly. To make sure that our vehicle fleet, to the extent that we have cars that may not be fully utilized, it's worthy of a conversation to determine if our vehicle fleet currently can accommodate the needs of a new building inspector. But on the face of it, I think we're going to need one. Just this last fiscal year, we relinquished, we had it on back order. We had a request for a second vehicle, and re-released that, and with no financial consequences. So I think we're pretty lean right now. But your question is a good one, and I was even thinking about it this morning, is to make sure that our vehicle fleet is adequate to serve the needs of all of our staff, on-site wastewater, code enforcement, our planners as well, that do not site evaluations, but will view or revisit an applicant site location. Of course, there's coordination that's happening now, one-on-one with the board to view Juniper Preserve for the psilocybin forthcoming public hearing. So we need to make sure we have adequate vehicles ultimately, but we'll make sure that it's done judiciously.
Thank you.
With that, I'll move approval of the resolution 2024-035, adding the 1.0 FTE building safety inspector 1, 2, or 3 in the building safety division.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your support.
No, you're welcome. And thank you. Let's get on it, because I think it'll really make your life a lot happier. Definitely more inspectors. Item number 9. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Heather Keisner, Public Health Director, and I'm here today to seek approval of Chair signature of document 2024-554, which is the Oregon Health Authority Intergovernmental Agreement. This intergovernmental agreement really amends and restates our previous IGA as we enter the new fiscal year, and it outlines the program descriptions and reporting requirements for Deschutes County Public Health, and provides funding for FY25 for really a majority of our public health programs that we administer here in Deschutes County. And each of these programs really have program descriptions, operational, and reporting requirements that we're responsible for every year, which includes kind of our triennial review that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, that we'll be doing in May of 2025, that really looks at all the work we do when it comes to our IGA to ensure that we are compliance and quality when it comes to running public health here in Deschutes County. And I'll pass it over to Cheryl.
Good morning, Cheryl Smallman, Business Officer for Health Services. Overall, this amendment provides funding in the amount of $4,508,181, of which $222,328 is one-time funding for immunizations. And we came to the board back in May and requested an extension of 1 FTE limited duration for the year. So that's what that is about there. We do expect forthcoming amendments. This particular one did not include all of the funding that will be forthcoming. So things like Ryan White should be in the next amendment, as well as some emergency preparedness and response funding. So just in terms of delay and kind of order of operations there. In terms of additional funding, there's about 193,000 of additional funding that we were not anticipating during the budget process. That's primarily in the Family Connects Oregon service element or program element rather. So that's exciting as we look towards the sustainability and long-term of that particular funding and program. And then overall, this is a reduction from the previous year's previous year of 696,000, but most of that, pretty much all of that, is related to reduced COVID funding that is starting to term out. So we were anticipating that and have adjusted accordingly.
So amending and restating the whole IGA is bigger than we usually see in mid biennium. Is that correct? Or just, it looks like, I mean, it's kind of the whole package is what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the biennium, but because we're into the new fiscal year, it's kind of that extension.
And we see this pretty regularly, these kind of updates. It just seemed like this is a bigger one. It's kind of restating some the program elements and all that, but it's exciting that it's landed right now instead of 3 months from now, because that's what happens sometimes. It slips.
Agreed. Yes.
There will probably be more trickling.
Oh, there'll be.
But this is only July 10th. So this is
great.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. A bit better. Commissioner Chang?
I don't have any questions. It's great to see the state's commitment to public health programming at the county. A few weeks back during budget week, we were talking about the challenges of holding up the county's end of the equation for public health work, and this and kind of any amendments that come over the course of the year are substantial, contributions from the state to county public health programming. And it's great to see that and this, list of excellent programs on this staff memo that are being supported.
Okay. With that, did you want to make a motion?
Sure. I will move approval of chair signature of document number 2024-554 and Oregon Health Authority Agreement number 180009-11.
And I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang? For the vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're now at item number 10. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Tim Brownell, Director of the Solid Waste Department. We're here today for consideration of the recommendations of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee regarding the siting development and mitigation of a new landfill. As you may remember, we were here on June 12th for a public hearing in regards to this matter, this recommendation. At your direction, that public comment period was extended, receiving written comments through June 26th. We received 3 more comments during that period of time and received a total of 6 comments through the public hearing process. At the discussion at our meeting on June 12th, there was a bit of discussion regarding a few elements of this recommendation. One around the mitigation components of this selection, another on the mineral rights and other questions in regards to water rights. Parametrics, our consultant has provided and is in the packet 3 memos in regards to each of those. I'm sorry if you may not have seen them in the packet. They're on pages 268 through 280. They're at the very end of the final report summary that is in there. And instead of being in front of them, they were at the end of them. So hopefully you were able to see those and review those. And the parametrics is here to discuss those further with you. So the recommendation that came from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which is for your consideration, it came in 3 parts. One is to select the Hooker Creek Boom Pit property for the siting of the future landfill and authorize staff to move forward with negotiating a purchase agreement and secure associated permits with that site. Any purchase agreement that is developed would come back to the board for consideration, comment, and approval. The second recommendation that came from the advisory committee was direct staff to work with stakeholders to develop and implement a robust and comprehensive mitigation strategy that reflects community values and minimizes impacts to area wildlife and recreation. So there are statutory requirements relative to mitigation, and then and those are included in the report. And then there is the potential of going beyond that. Again, that would be staff would work with interested parties to develop what enhanced mitigation would look like and bring that back to the board for consideration and approval. And the last recommendation that came from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee was to direct staff to prioritize waste prevention and recovery and move to as quickly as possible to implement those strategies to reduce the overall costs and greenhouse gas emissions of the new landfill. And to speak to that, we are in this year's fiscal budget, we do have the development of RFPs for receiving responses and proposed approaches to expanded recovery of recyclables, construction, demolition debris, recovery and diversion, as well as expanded organics management and processing. So again, those would come back to the board for consideration in terms of impacts on both diversion as well as rates and ratepayer impacts. So with that, I'd love to open it up for conversation, deliberations, and discussions.
Thank you, Tim. Mr. Devon.
A couple thoughts. I was able to review this a little bit more in depth. I hadn't opened up Appendix D, which kind of shows the maps of both sites and their future cell layouts. So as I said, when I opened it up, the big PDF, I'm like, oh, there it is. The realization is we basically have this kind of pre-designed facility for both of these sites. And there's a lot of depth of knowledge in there, and everybody should understand that, this is a roadmap that's already been created for both of these facilities. And then by going down that path, and it backs us up to the site selection, which was just done by our Solid Waste Advisory Committee unanimously. And now, the step is to acknowledge that recommendation and get to a purchase and sale agreement negotiation. So we're just starting the negotiation. But so my point is it's kind of pre-designing how we will even use this facility a lot deeper than some people might even expect. It's all here.
Commissioner Chang, did you want to add anything, or did you want me to make comments first?
I'll just say I still have significant concerns about this site. Along the lines of the 3 topics that Tim mentioned, mitigation, water, and the mineral resources. I will I would want to be sure that the county, gets the most favor or the best deal possible for the county and the ratepayers. And also that we are meeting all of our obligations and responsibilities in terms of mitigation before I'm comfortable proceeding with this site. But that is, while I have concerns about the site and there's things that I'm going to want to see before I become a yes vote to move forward, I'm also comfortable proceeding with negotiations at this point to try to unpack all that and move forward on all three of those fronts.
So when we discussed those, you're done then? Okay. When we discussed this, we actually talked to him about an appraisal. And I believe Christy Bollinger was going to look into that. And I see her stepping up. So yeah, I would just kind of appreciate some feedback because I'm still reading this about the water rights. And that's my sticking point that makes me incredibly nervous that we're still like, when we should have more power, we have no power when it comes to water, it looks like.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Christy Bollinger, Deschutes County Property Management. So when we spoke last about the appraisal, I did speak with Bratton Appraisal, who does a lot of appraisal work for us. And so they specialize in real property appraisal, like land and buildings and things. And so not a site like this because of the aggregate. And so I did get a name through them just actually today for a gentleman, and I believe he's in the area that should be able to help us through this process. So I'll be calling him today and then trying to start that process and see how we can properly value the land because of the aggregate use of it. That's the kind of the tricky piece of it, I think.
I know. There's a lot of tricks there, aren't there? I mean, yeah, it's very complicated and it's a decision we're making not lightly. It's a 100-year decision. So we really want to do it right. Okay, so you're going to talk to that person today.
Yep.
And they are someone that's within the region, so they will have a bit of expertise.
Yeah, they're a geologist. And so that was the recommendation. So I'm going to call and talk with him and then just kind of go from there.
That
trying to flesh this out.
I think that makes probably a lot of sense to be talking to a geologist. Okay.
Yeah, and I just like to say, when I said I'm comfortable proceeding with negotiations right now, again, it doesn't mean I'm sold on this site and ready to vote to move forward. It means that I think it would be good to explore all three of these things: the mitigation that'll be required associated with this site, how to share both the risk and the reward within the mineral resource, and whether we can secure a reliable, affordable supply of water for a facility for the site before, I am going to want to see those things before I'm ready to vote for us to purchase this site. But entering into negotiations does give us the opportunity to dig into each one of those things. So, but definitely want to signal right now that I'm not sold on this site yet.
You want to speak to appreciate the comments, Commissioner Chang. The recommendation that we have from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is to move forward with this location as the primary location, the preferred location, that we through the process of due diligence, we will be both evaluating the appropriateness of the price. We will be, and we've heard clearly that the issue of water and water rights is of significant concern, not only to the commissioners, but everybody who was involved with the SWAC, so that we will be bringing that forward in the negotiations and making sure that the mineral rights are clearly understood and that the benefit of those mineral rights are incorporated into our purchase agreement, and that there is going to be work that we need to do in the interim. We need to understand the value of this aggregate that our own county roads department may have, and how we might be able to use that in future bidding for county road projects, to see how that might be of economic benefit to roads projects throughout the county, as well as, you know, the possibility of free market value of those mineral rights. So there are several things that we're going to be looking at in the next phase of our review of this site. But this due diligence process before we get, you know, there's the permitting and everything else, the procurement, it's going to take us several years before we actually get to the point of writing a final check for this site. So all of that will be worked through the due diligence process.
Well, if we're ready to start to proceed, we'll see where it goes here. I'll move to accept the Solid Waste Advisory Committee recommendation to select the Hooker Creek Moon Pit property for siting Deschutes County's future landfill, and authorize staff to move forward with negotiating a purchase agreement and securing associated permits.
I would just clarify, I know that they have laid out 3 different recommended motions, but I think you can just do it by moving to approve the order number 2024-021.
Okay, so then the order does, yeah, so I was just kind of breaking them up because we were in this situation last time, you know, section 1, 2, 3 does acknowledge all 3 of those points. So yeah, to follow on, well, I mean, I guess, yeah, what's the will of the board? Because I was just kind of going to have a little bit of discussion about the 3 of them as we proceed. That was my thought, because it will conclude in, you know, approving that order number.
I'm comfortable moving forward with the full order with all 3 components. But again, you know, I don't think this is contradicting what Tim just described for us, but I do, you know, I view these things, you know, particularly the value of the mineral resource and the availability of the water as potential fatal flaws for you know, for this negotiation, and you know, if we're not able to negotiate something that works for the county, I would see those as reasons to, you know, stop negotiating this site and explore others.
Thank you, Commissioner Chang, for those words, because I actually read the memo from the July 3rd, and it makes me very nervous. And you're right, I think water is critical. And it says if a partial water transfer cannot be secured, then the county will need to explore other options as applying for a new groundwater permit. And it's like, no, I don't want the county to have to apply for a new groundwater permit. I want Hooker Creek to know that we need what, 10% or whatever of that, the existing permit. I feel like it's incredibly critical for this transaction. And then the words move as quickly as possible. In this instant, I do not believe we need to move as quickly as possible. We're talking about something for 100 years. We need to do this right. So yeah, those words, they kind of bothered me. Like this is one time where I think government needs to be incredibly careful. We're talking about a major $1 million project that's we desperately need, but you know what? We have to be incredibly careful.
Yeah.
Moving as quickly as possible is referring to
item number
waste
3.
prevention and recovery, which is going from 30-something% recycling to 45, which is the goal. So it really is and that's why I was there's more to discuss here. You know, getting to that next 10, 12, 15% of recycling and recovery is something we should do quickly. But so that's what we're referring, you know, what is referred to there.
Oh, yes. But that to me that's a different issue to me. That's not this issue.
But it fits into the whole solid waste stream.
Well, yes.
We got to practice what 45 looks like. You know, if we can do 30, what does 45 look like? And that's a community discussion. You know, what are we missing that can be recovered and recycled, you know, today at our current facility for the next 5 years, and then going into our new facility also.
Well, you have to think what really happened on recycling is that China quit taking it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there any economic value in the recycling? And as I told you my story, I was recycling my feed bags. And I talked to the company that makes the feed and they said, absolutely, there is no way that they want those bags ever back because they can't use them. And so I went, okay, so where do those bags go then? I thought that was very enlightening.
Yeah, and we're also, this is also a moment where in the state of Oregon, the Recycling Modernization Act is about to kick in, and that will, have some significant impacts and create some significant change and hopefully positive motion on our ability to recover more material for recycling.
But then what it does is it increases the costs for the people. So there's a cost involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, recycling costs money, and the question has been who's going to pay for that for a long time, and now we're seeing a requirement for producers to step up and cover some of that cost in order to create, really to stimulate and create certain kinds of markets. So, yeah, they will probably be passing that along to consumers, but recycling costs money, and somebody's got to pay for it somewhere in the system.
So how about a simple,
So was there a second to,
well, I was going to go back without a second. How about a simple move approval of order number 2024-021, acknowledging the three components?
I'll second that.
okay,
Simple.
it's simple. All right. So is there any further discussion?
Well, I'll not to be a broken record, but I'll just say again, we're observing this. We're looking at this one option for a site, and I don't think that, or in my perception, we're not giving up the opportunity to look at other sites if fatal flaws emerge around this negotiation for this site.
Well, yeah, Commissioner, I mean, a fatal flaw is a fatal flaw. It means we're not going to proceed. So I would agree with your statement there. This is our informed decision by the years of putting a solid waste management plan together, solid waste advisory committee, looking at all the sites, prioritizing the two primary sites and getting to this one as a starting point. But yeah, we're going to start negotiations, purchase and sale agreement negotiations. And if it isn't get concluded, it doesn't get concluded. But yeah, let's be very professional about it.
Yeah, no, what I was having a hard time with before, and at the last meeting and discussion about this, was the feeling that by taking this step of entering into these negotiations, we really were giving up our other options. But again, now for me, it's about, okay, we're exploring this option further. If there are no fatal flaws, we will proceed. But there is a possibility that there will be things that are just not, we just can't get solved or resolved in negotiations, and those would be reasons to go back and consider other sites again.
Okay. Stephanie, did you want to add some thoughts to this? Perfect.
Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair Adair, and hi, Commissioner Chang. Stephanie Marshall, Senior Assistant Legal Counsel. I think that what I'm hearing in the audience today is concern as to if the board was to sign this order accepting the recommendation that it's this site or nothing. Is that what you heard as well? Yeah. So I think I heard Commissioner DeBone say that, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee has analyzed a number of sites over several years, and through the various criteria and rating systems of all the sites that were available based on, again, those criteria, this one rose to the top at this time in history. So, what if the board were to accept the recommendation, and which would then allow staff to move forward and drill down on some of these concerns and see where how those might be negotiated, that's still an option. Is there still the option of finding out that, maybe none of these can be addressed satisfactorily to the board? That's still an option as well. And the board can always redirect at some point in time what it wishes to do with respect to a new landfill or other solid waste disposal in the future.
And I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you, Stephanie, for those comments. I do find it, okay, the recommendation, I know that committee has spent thousands of hours, but honestly, I would have thought perhaps we would have done an appraisal earlier than July, what are we, 10th, 2024. Just to know, okay, what is it? We knew what they were asking for the Roth East, the ranch, the cattle ranch. But I mean, it would have been, just because it is such a unique piece of property and it did rise to the top of the other locations that we have been evaluating. But the fact that they seem to kept the water over here, and yet we've got this huge price tag on over here. To me, no, the water needs to go over there. So it's real simple.
I think we're just systematically trying to walk through this process and with the board. And so I think that's just a step. The next step is to look at the appraisal of the aggregate and kind of just go from there. So yeah, we could have done it earlier. We could do it probably any time. But I think right now is the right time to do it based on where we are with the advisory committee's recommendation and where the board is at the decision point of moving forward with this site. And like Stephanie just explained, if a fatal flaw, there's just too much risk because of water, whatever that might be, the board will always have the opportunity to go a different direction.
So we did discuss this July 1st. So of course, then we had the holiday, and I'm sure that's why, pulling together everything. But when you consider it's called an initial purchase price, does that mean that that's the purchase price that Hooker Creek gave us? That was their sales item, even though it really wasn't for sale on the general market, but that's what they have priced it at.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. And we have not said, well, gosh, we want to pay $1 million less. We haven't done anything like that.
Nope.
No. Okay. Because a lot of times when people have their initial purchase price, there's might be a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm just wondering.
And just for clarity too, if we entered in the next several months into a purchase and sale agreement for that price, it doesn't mean we have to pay that price, because as we go through our due diligence and we are able to figure out the water rights, the cost, the value of the aggregate, all of that determines what we're willing to pay. So even if we did enter into a purchase and sale agreement for that amount that they're asking for, we will have a period of time where we could come back and ask for a reduced purchase price. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Christy. So then, any other comments? So Commissioner DeBonne,
Vote yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Okay.
Here we go. Hey, that's
Thank
a big day. That's a big moment. We've been working for that for 3 years.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I just think it's one of many moments that are
Oh,
going to
yeah.
continue on, because this is a long ways from being done.
Yeah, we haven't landed this thing yet.
Or Snager said, I'll be back.
Oh, there you go. Listen to you.
We'll figure out the recycling, Tim, for Pete's sake. Okay, are there other items? Did you have something, Nick?
We have two items at the staff level, but if commissioners wish to go first, Chair, whichever you prefer.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Scott?
great. Thank you. Robert's getting up to stand up. This is regarding a letter supporting House Bill 4056 recommendations. This is I'll defer to Robert. I'm just taking time as he's handing out the letter. This is related to the foreclosed properties and next steps.
Oh,
Thank you. And one for the record.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Robert Tintel, Chief Financial Officer. I did email this information out to you previously, but I obviously just handed out a draft letter to you just now. This item is, as Nick Lilac just mentioned, in response to House Bill 4056, which the Oregon Department of Revenue is hosting a series of discussions about a uniform process to distribute surplus proceeds from property tax lien foreclosure sales. This is a result of the Supreme Court decision that mentioned that the way we're doing it now, based on the laws, we need to change that within Oregon. So the Department of Revenue has been hosting a series of meetings that involves counties and other interested parties to provide input to the next legislative session. There was a group of interested parties that put together their response to how they think how we should proceed with the legislation. And Representative Conrad asked counties to review the consumer group memo, and that was discussed at the meetings, and prepare responses to the recommendation. There was a group of counties on their own: Yamhill, Multnomah, Washington, Josephine, Clackamas, Lane, and Marion. They had gotten together and provided a joint response, and we were not part of that group. And after this work group, that was my charge. I was like, what's happening on a coordinated effort for counties to respond to this effort? And that's when I found out there was this one letter that was submitted. Since then, we have taken the language, and property tax and county council, Kim Riley, has looked at the joint comments that was provided by those counties, and we prepared our own letter that follows similar language that we can agree with. And then we did just add a few of our tweaks, personalization on the memo as well. So that's what you see before you. It's the shared language that we could agree with the comments. Again, trying to get 36 counties to agree wholeheartedly on every single point, that probably isn't possible. But in substance, the letter is what we can agree with, and the conversations are continuing. The deadline for submitting the letter is tomorrow. We did receive the official request last week, and we didn't have a Monday session. So that's what's in there. And if you have any questions specifically about some of the items that are on there, Kim's here, and I believe property management is here as well still.
Well, the topic's getting pretty mature, it looks like, from the county's point of view, the assessor and the treasurer. We need clarity on this. It talks about a 6-year look back, and item number 6 says fully supports the state's takeover of all look-back claims. So that's interesting that, it is state law that we're following. We're not making this up. We're just following state law. But I do support these recommendations.
Gosh, weren't we one of 12 states that were doing this?
Correct.
Yeah, one of 12. So, okay. Yeah.
I will just make one final comment too. An interesting point that's come out of the discussions thus far is the state realizes that counties were following the law by distributing the proceeds to all the taxing districts upon the sale of proceeds. And now if there is any look back period or a claimant comes back for these properties, we've already distributed those funds. So the state is talking about setting up their own fund so that counties or districts are not responsible for paying those claims back. So if that comes in the legislation, we will fully support that as well, because it was made very clear that the counties did not hold on to that money. We have distributed it, and we don't have the funds to pay back these property owners or claimants if it did arise.
That's excellent to hear. Yes.
And really importantly, we distributed it to a whole bunch of different taxing districts. I mean, just because we collected these funds, just because we auctioned these properties and sold them, doesn't mean that we even used all the money. I mean, these funds were distributed across every single taxing district in Deschutes County, and clawing that money back would be very difficult. So Robert, I did want to ask a little bit more about that. So is that that's the recommendation of this 7-county group that wrote the initial letter, but is that what the work group that the state put together is thinking as well, that that they're thinking along those lines, or are they is that just a recommendation coming from the county end of things?
That is definitely a talking point that the counties are mentioning, but Representative Conrad definitely did hear that point, and they have looked at what other states have done, how they have provided funding for the exact same thing. And that's where that model came about. They said, here's another state that provided that exact same mechanism. And so they realized that's what the state of Oregon may have to do as well. So there is consensus there. There were other school district or other districts, special districts that were on the line, and they also had chimed in and said, yes, that's very important to note that they do not have funding available to repay a county if a county had to make sale proceeds. So it is common knowledge at this point that that's a very important point, but we just have to make sure it's also in the legislation that comes forward as well. And then today, by the way, there's a meeting of the assessors and tax collectors, and I'm on the agenda to present this to all counties, because again, not all counties has provided input. So again, it's just making sure that counties share a similar voice, because there is great advocacy from other special interest groups that may not necessarily be looking out for the county's best interest at the same time.
Right.
And Robert, so you mentioned Representative Conrad. I mean, that is, so which committee is this being processed through at the legislature?
Which committee? I'm not familiar which this, Kim, are you familiar?
Revenue Committee, probably.
Revenue Work Group.
Yeah, this is
set up pursuant to HB 4056. They were directed to put together this work group.
Right. And I'm not sure which committee though it goes to at this date. I don't have that right offhand.
All right. So
So the question.
I'm happy
is
to
if
sign it.
There's support for the board to.
Yes, Commissioner Chang, are you comfortable?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank
do
you
we
for
need a
putting this
motion?
letter together.
A motion would be helpful.
Okay. Could we have a motion then?
I'll move approval of board signature on this letter to the Oregon Department of Revenue regarding recommendations for the Department of Revenue House Bill 4056 work group.
And I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So great.
One more item for Robert. We saw the transit room tax numbers published, kind of a little bump this last month has brought us back. Is that the end of the fiscal year numbers now?
That is the end of the fiscal year numbers. And yeah, it was our second month with that we saw an increase in last fiscal year. So we did end the year a little bit better than we were previously expecting. So closer down to 2% as opposed to 3%, which, it's $100,000, say, difference, but every bit helps.
Yeah, well, it's good to see that number up just that little bit.
Yes, thank you.
Then I was reading that they were saying the reservations on the fourth weekend were down. So Ben was saying that, yeah, it went up in June, but then the fourth was down. So, yeah, I know. Win some, lose some, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
It's volatile. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's another item?
And Chair, we do have one more item. Jen Patterson's coming up. We just want to finalize the logistics format, et cetera, for the community conversation on the county campground opportunities with the board that we're scheduling for Tuesday, July 30th from 5:30 to 8, so that we can plan and notice and conduct public outreach accordingly. Thanks. So Jen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. So yesterday I sent an email to the board to just kind of go over the few things that we've been talking in a working group for this agenda and kind of the logistics for the July 30th community conversation on county campground opportunities. And so we just wanted to bring a few questions before you that came up that we wanted to make sure we were following the direction of how you guys wanted this meeting to take place. So the first one was, I think there was an interest in the board in having Echo Northwest come and give a brief presentation at the start of the meeting. I did talk with Mark Buckley with Echo, and they're more than happy to do that. He's going to just talk for maybe 7 to 8 minutes, if that works for everyone, and discuss some updates on the financials, as the financials in the original camping feasibility study addressed campground size of 300 plus RVs. And given some of the information that we've heard from CDD and others, that maybe we start out with a much smaller concept if we are to move forward in any capacity. And so they're going to provide financial updates for 50, 75, and 100 RV park out there and what that looks like. And in talking with Mark, he has some additional financial updates to provide there. So he was going to just cover that briefly. And then also, go ahead.
For Mark, for Eco Northwest specifically is, the recollection of the beginning of this. When we came to him, we said, we want to study, the market opportunity, the 3 locations in Deschutes County, how it fits into state land use, how it fits into the economy proper. So yeah, if he can start off with just a introductory statement about, like, even when he heard about us doing this, what came to mind for him, because we were hiring the professionals to put this on paper for us.
Okay.
So
great.
just introductory statement.
Great. I'm meeting with him later this week, so we'll cover that.
Commissioner.
Jen, Jen, if Echo Northwest can look at a couple of different sizes, I'm wondering if 50, 75, 100, those might be so close to each other in size that it might be more worthwhile to look at something like 50, 100, 150. It's kind of a couple of bigger brackets, which will give us a sense of what's in the middle. Like if you look at 50 and 100, you'll be able to make some educated guesses about what 75 would look like. But right now, what we got is 300, and that's pretty big. The other piece that people brought up in public comments that what I thought was significant that what would be valuable to build in here is the costs of financing, right? So, I mean, the Echo Northwest, the first go around, they basically did if you had $21 million, here you go. This is what it would, this is what it'd take to build it. But the reality is probably going to be that we would need to finance this. There would be debt service associated with that. And so if it's possible to do an analysis that incorporates debt service over time, that would be really helpful.
Great. So I will have him look. He's going to use it off of his existing spreadsheet. And we're trying not to go too far out of the scope of work of what they originally contributed to us, because at this juncture, we're not charging to come back and do this. So I will address these particular questions with him. That for sure, the 50, 100, 150, this spreadsheet's a little bit plug and play on how you can do it. So if there are other scenarios that come up during that day too, he can bring that up. But I think he'll have that plug and play spreadsheet available. And then I will ask him about the debt services if he can incorporate that.
Yeah, I mean, if his existing model doesn't incorporate that, and I don't think it does, then maybe he could just talk about, okay, so to add, the cost of money to construct this, we need to think about in these ways. This is what you would want to do to modify this model. You could just describe that rather than try to actually model it. But just to demonstrate to folks who are asking those questions that we recognize that it's a real cost, and it changes the whole financial picture. And I mean, the other thing that it does is it gives opportunity. If you finance something like this, it gives opportunities for it to be cash flow positive on a given year, even if overall you have incurred 10, 15, $20 million of debt. It's possible that the cost of the debt service on a given year is lower than the amount of revenue that you secure in a given year. So it's I think people heard those millions of dollars price tag, and they were just very daunted by that. But we really do need to think about this on a year by year pro forma basis.
Great. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but it may already have that on a year by year. So I'll have to look at that, and that could be something that could be addressed.
Thank you.
So apart from these comments, the other request we had for Mark to address was the capacity versus need of campgrounds in Deschutes County, because that had come up several times. And that was addressed in the original camping feasibility study. So I think he's going to do a little bit of outreach and maybe update some of that information that he's heard. So those were for the very quick 7 to 8 minutes. Now, if we want to expand his time and expand what we'd like to have covered there, we can do that. And I do think he's going to be available for the entire duration of the community conversation. Just as note, he's going to have to join us via Zoom. He will be out of the state during that time, but would like to participate and as right now, as we have him just speaking for a few minutes, 7 to 8 minutes, just to address kind of those reoccurring questions that were within the camping feasibility study.
Great. Yeah, and I mean on the kind of on the questions of whether there really is demand or need for this in the community, Mark doesn't have to be Echo Northwest doesn't have to be the only source of information on that. I think it'd be really valuable to have someone from state parks talk about how full Tumalo State Park, which is a stone throw away from the Fort Thompson property, how full Tumalo State Park is all summer long and into the shoulder months, and how many people they turn away, and things like that.
So that kind of rolls into the question on the table. Was we have officially invited Mark to come and speak. There has been conversations that we've heard during these public meetings of inviting other agencies. Right now, we're tracking Visit Central Oregon, Bend Parks and Rec District, Oregon State Parks, and Visit Bend. At this juncture, we wanted to see if there was other agencies or partners that you wanted to add to the list, if that is the list you'd like to invite. And additionally, we weren't giving a formal invite of please come and speak before the group. We were going to give an invite of this conversation is going on. You're more than willing to participate as topics come up. As you'll see later on in that email that I sent, we have an agenda that is primarily spent being able to engage in those community conversations with citizens who are coming to engage. But if we want to change that agenda where there's more presentation speakers, that would cut in a little bit to the amount of time that the conversations are taking place with the citizens. So I guess the first question I'll pose here are those the partner agencies you would like us to extend an invite to? And if so, are there any additional ones, or are there some there that you don't want an official invitation extended to?
I just wanted to mention the Deschutes Trails Coalition, because they did, they sent us a letter in support of pursuing this idea. And they have a really good understanding of the potential, the trails potential for our community within that property. That doesn't mean we have to have them make a presentation, but to be there at the table and to be able to chime in and say, yeah, there's good trail opportunities and there's demand for these beginning biking trails or things like that during the discussion would be good.
Okay, so I have 5 agencies: Deschutes Trails Coalition, Visit Central Oregon, Bend Parks and Rec District, Oregon State Parks, and Visit Bend, that we're going to extend an invitation to, just basically an informational email letting them know they're more than welcome to attend and participate as topics come up. But for those 5 agencies, we're not offering a formal invitation to come and present before us, but just to be aware that it's going on, and we'd love to have them as a voice in the room if they're able to attend.
Participate on the panel as one of the panels that you'll discuss.
Okay, so we want that invitation to be a panel participant.
No. My point is that you're inviting them to attend, and then they'll choose if they're going to participate on a panel. They're not going to present like Echo Northwest.
Correct. The only presentation we have of so far on the draft agenda is Echo Northwest giving an overview of those topics we just discussed.
But then we are picturing there being a panel. That's kind of like presentation, or is
I won't overspeak for Nick, but how we're envisioning this setup is that we can get to this too, is on the agenda, which is at the bottom of the email, is that the 3 commissioners will be available, and then we'll have people sign up in groups of up to 10 based on areas of interest on why they are attending this meeting. And then we'll rotate them in to have open conversations with the commissioners in 30-minute blocks. And I think that's what we're using as the word panel.
And that's going to be from 5:45 to 7:45. So we'll have 4 of those.
4 of those, correct.
Is there water on this property? The 500 acres or whatever?
The canal runs through it.
No, but I meant, is there like water, drinking water and things like that? Like the canal? Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. I can look into that.
I just was wondering. So the canal runs through it. Do we have water rights for the canal?
No. No, there's no irrigated lands within that property. I mean, this would be, any new development would be on a well, just like pretty much any other development where there's drinking water within the county.
Okay. So I'll move on to our second question we have there, which is, would the board like mailers to go out to owners of record of property? Typically speaking, we do a 1/4 mile notification from the property edges. And so we have the option for, as part of the outreach effort, to let the community know this community conversation is happening. Excuse me, is doing a mailer for the Fort Thompson property. And then the second question would be, would you also like to do a mailer for Drafter Road? Is this community conversation that, I think the official title of it is Community Conversation on County Campground Opportunities, while the citizen engagement we've heard has primarily been focused on Fort Thompson property. There has also been board discussion on Drafter Road property over the last year. So those are the 2 questions. Would you like a mailer? And if so, Fort Thompson or Fort Thompson and Drafter?
I think it should be more than half a 1/4 mile. The people that we've heard from that live there, they all know about it, but I think as our responsibility to the community that it's, I don't know, a 1/2 mile.
1/4 mile is fine with me, because it'll be the official notification of partnering or adjoining properties, and then the word of mouth will get around.
And I did notify them last week. So it is posted on the Hunnell United Neighbors Homeowner Association website, as well as an email went out once the date and times were confirmed. So they are also internally notifying. So a 1/4 or 1/2 mile, we can do either way for the commissioners.
I'm comfortable with a 1/4 mile. I mean, we're not talking about land use impacts that it's not like we're building like a coal-fired power plant or something. I mean, the noise or traffic or visual impacts are pretty localized.
Well, this is very early too. This isn't an RFP for land use or anything. This is community discussion.
Okay, so I heard 2 board members say a 1/4 mile, 1 1/2 mile. Are we good with the 1/4 mile notification?
Well, it's 2 to 1. Why not?
So, and from what I've heard, it's Fort Thompson Lane property only for the notification.
Right. That's what this meeting is about.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I
Right,
think
the
we should
last
be.
section in here is going over the agenda, so I'll just go over it briefly. We have talked about it a little bit. But we have the meeting scheduled from 5:30 to 8 p.m. We thought we'd give 7 minutes for an introduction, and that would really be a couple minutes from Chair Adair to do a welcome and introduction. And if we have partner agencies in the room, just allow them to identify themselves and who they are there on behalf of, so the audience knows there's that resource there. And then for the next 8 minutes, from 5:37 to 5:45, excuse me, we'll have that presentation from Mark Buckley via Zoom from Echo Northwest to cover those topics we discussed. And then we'll go right into the group conversation. And again, we'll have that format be, we'll have sign-up sheets as they come in the door for up to 10 people per 30-minute section. of the first two really being Fort Thompson Lane neighbors, as we anticipate maybe more than 10. So having them in two groups, then a group for tourism and recreation interest, and then other topics. If no one fits into that category, then they can sign up for the other topics and any online participants.
The Board of Commissioners will all be in the same group the whole time.
Correct.
We're not going three different ways. Right?
No, yeah, it'll just be one. So essentially up to 13 people, and then any partner agency who also wants to join in the discussion if there's topics being discussed that they're able to provide some insight into. Is that a good format for everyone?
That works for me.
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
You shouldn't have them back to back though, the Fort Thompson. They should be like first and then somebody else and then them or whatever. They should have a chance to not just to hear the comments from the other people.
Jen and I spoke about that. We wanted to leave that to the discretion of the board. You'll have each of the panel sign-in sheets, and we were going to leave that to the sheet. That was just a concept, but really at the discretion of the board and what order you would like the panels to be engaged with the board.
Yeah, correct. I should clarify the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. There was just to let you know the 4 different groups, so we can do that in any order for board preference.
Okay.
And then we left 15 minutes for closing comments from each board member. And I apologize, I forgot to put that on the draft email that I sent you. But 15 minutes for closing comments from all 3 commissioners. And then we also, the question we wanted to ask too is, do we want a contingency plan of going to 8:30 or a different contingency plan if we have more than 40 people in the room who want to speak? This format allows up to 40 people to engage in that conversation. But if we have more than that, do you want to come up with a plan to extend for a 5th group or a different type of opportunity?
I'll just stay till it's done. I mean, we'll feel the room as we go, and that's what I would do.
So we'll have a few extra sign-up sheets if we need to go that route, if that works for everyone.
Okay, because my morning starts at 7:30. I'm supposed to be here to meet with Janice. So yeah, that could be one of those days.
The only other part I would say is we'll also invite people to submit written comments, because not everybody will feel.
Yeah, not everybody's going to be in
a
town.
panel, and so we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to participate or share their perspectives or questions in a manner that's comfortable to them. So.
And then one last question is, are there any other interests? Do the 4 groups that 4 categories we came up with sound appropriate? Are there any others that you wanted to add in there?
One that I was just occurring to me, thinking back on the input and feedback we were getting from people during public comment, was that the concern that we were trying to set up a managed homeless camp. So I don't know whether we spent a lot of time talking about that. I don't know whether we have kind of satisfied people's concerns about that possibility. There were a lot of people who really believed that this was about setting up a managed homeless camp, which it's not. But to the extent that those questions have not been adequately addressed, I'm wondering whether that might be a topic of a panel, or people who we invite to participate, organizations that we invite to participate. I would immediately think about the Coordinated Homeless Response Office as the entity that was issuing the request for proposals that we're working through right now. I can say quite clearly that the Fort Thompson property was not one of the properties that people were making proposals about for homeless response facilities, but I don't know whether people are fully comfortable with that answer yet.
So in response to that, I also heard those continuing comments. Those comments I believe, came from Fort Thompson Lane area neighbors. So that might come up in the Fort Thompson Lane interest group who's before the commissioners, we could have somebody, we could invite somebody from Crow to be there as a partner agency to address those questions as we would any of the other partner agencies versus having a panel on that. I'll leave it up to the board, but, you know. go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, this is up to us as commissioners, you know, if we're talking about a market rate opportunity for, you know, overnight camping, short-term camping, it's not a managed homeless camp. You know, and I've stated in the past that if somebody wants to sponsor another person to be there for X amount of time, you know, maybe a church would do that, but this is not a managed camp. So we don't need anybody else to speak for us on that topic. This is just our public statement as elected officials.
And there's possibly, if we send a postcard, if that's what we're going to do, or however we notify people within the radius that the board is directed, maybe there's just a quick statement. Note this is pertaining to a market rate campground opportunity. I mean, just state it yet again, something clearly.
Yeah, and I think the language we were using is recreational campground, something along this. I can go back and look at it, but you know, everything we've noticed on this has been for recreational campground use. That was what the RFP was for. That was what the study was written for. So we can just continue to say, so maybe in this, I'll say, a community conversation on county recreational campground opportunities.
Yeah.
But that, okay.
Saying, you know, we can use that in our opening remarks and closing remarks too.
And I believe CDD has also spoken on that, and they'll be there in the room as well, that land use wouldn't permit that. I mean, there's so many different reasons on why that's not a consideration for this particular property. Okay, that was all my questions. Was there anything else you want us to consider or to think over in this process?
Well, so my only other thought is to make sure that we're clear on where we're at on this process, as in, you know, Commissioner Dare, when we talked about it last, you said you had saved Worrell Park and you were maybe lukewarm about this. I think,
Lukewarm.
why, I don't want to speak.
Lukewarm is too warm for this.
Okay, well, so yeah, so then if you're not
It's like any
supportive,
kind of money, and what they said about the zoning issue in the report, because I actually had a single wide manufactured home park right next door. And after reading the report, their report was so negative on actually getting the permission to do this. So anyway, I saw that.
so then I guess this is
and we've
feedback from
had
Commissioner
more.
Chang. Go ahead.
And we've had more clarification on what is and isn't allowed in this zoning. Since the report was completed. I mean, that piece, kind of the land use analysis for the Fort Thompson property, I think is one of the places where I didn't think that Echo Northwest had finished their work at the time that the report was written. And I'm a little disappointed about that, but you know, we know that if this is a public campground, you know, run by a public agency, that this is an allowable conditional use in this site. So it's not a concern. I mean, if you where exactly is this proposed mobile home park that has been mentioned several times in the last few years?
Oh, it's right next door. It's 57 acres.
And where is that?
It's
Is it
right
on
next door to the county property on the map.
Is it
Yes.
off Fort Thompson
Yeah, it's
Road? Is
west,
it off
right there.
Hunnell Road?
It couldn't be east because that's going to be on Highway 97. So yeah, it's west. Anyway, no,
Is it
I
south?
just,
Is it
you know, now
south
we
or is
know
it on the
there's
west
no
side?
water. There's no irrigated lands. You know, there's all kinds of other, I don't think that Echo Northwest actually looked at that either. Getting water there is another, we know, critical factor. So there's
So
all
I
kinds
guess
of little things.
I'm just sensing between the three of us, Commissioner Chang, I don't want to set you up. I mean, you may have great ideas here that may not be supported by one or both of us. And let's not assume that we're we've come to a consensus on anything here yet. I'm just sensitive to that.
I'm not assuming that anyone's come to a consensus on anything, but my goal with all this is to articulate the demand in our community for new trails, new parks, new campgrounds to address camping demand within our tourism industry, and explore whether this is a feasible place to meet those demands. I'm not sold that this is the be all end all myself, but I do think that it has a promising property from a lot of perspectives, and I do think that I am concerned that people are trying to shut this possibility down prematurely for reasons that are not valid. Someone saying, I like having 500 acres of empty county property backing up against my yard, because it's my own, it's basically my own private preserve. That's a real concern, but I don't think that that's enough of a concern not to explore converting this property to a park for all the people of Deschutes County.
Yeah, so we're setting up for that community discussion, just making sure.
Yeah, we're not looking for any decisions coming out of this community conversation.
But we need to hear from the community because they definitely feel that we haven't been particularly transparent. So happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So any other items? We don't have an executive today. Do we have anything?
We do.
We do have an executive session today?
So another just update or two here then, real quick. So next Thursday is EOCA meeting, Eastern Oregon County Association in person. I'm planning on going, so that'll be a drive in the morning, Thursday morning, or maybe Wednesday night, to be in partnership with our Eastern Oregon Association members. It'll be kind of a legislative review. Yeah, so just confirming that with my other commissioners. I don't know if there's any other plans for that.
Okay.
And then yesterday was Sun River Lapine Economic Development Board meeting. So economic development, pretty exciting. An incubator building and a spec building. Remember, the city received money from the legislature, and there's for the incubator building, and then a spec building, land that we had donated in partnership with the city. So a couple of buildings going to be going up in Lapine area. It still may be many months, but that's what was the kind of the content of our agenda yesterday, talking about how that's moving forward.
I apologize. There's no executive session.
Oh, well,
It got rescheduled for next week.
Very good.
okay, all right. And let's see. I did want to compliment Redmond Chamber on the excellent parade that they put together for the 4th of July. And then also Lapine. Lapine is going, considering the fire and everything else, they were going 110% for at least 10 days. So yes, it was a little warm, but you know what? We love heat. So, and then on a sister's front, the Three Creeks Brewery closed. And then Wade actually sold his restaurant. So an end of an amazing era for Three Creeks. So I think my glasses will become collector's items because I have glasses from his.
There you go.
Yeah, his restaurant. So Commissioner Chang, anything to add? Will we have a meeting next Monday? We don't know yet.
Don't believe so. I'm
Don't
not
believe so.
sure.
Okay, all right. We will definitely have a meeting next Wednesday then at 9 a.m. So the meeting now is to be adjourned, and we will see you, if not on Monday at 1, we will see you definitely Wednesday at 9 a.m. So thank you.